Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyam-Soke with a bevy of good topics, as Moses Kaole of a morning show would say. And in the studio, I have people already lined up. The ever optimistic Joseph Otieno is here. I've introduced him like that to a new guest. You're most welcome to the Capital Gang, Joseph.
I was delighted that you introduced me so nicely to the most powerful lady in the media.
Don't I always?
You're always very generous to me.
Yes.
But I thought it was particularly special because it was to the most powerful lady in the media.
Indeed.
But it's a pleasure being here, Oscar, and a pleasure discussing the topic in topics that we're going to be discussing today. And my optimism means that not only are we going to be having the fourth estate as the future, playing its part amongst the five estates, but that whatever else, women are going to be at the helm.
So Lydia is in the studio. She came on time. I spoke to her. I spoke to Lydia the other day and said, "Don't be late." And this morning I found her here and said, "Nai tochisusa," because she came well before the 10 a.m. time. So very pleased that you are here on time, Lydia.
Thank you, Oscar. Good morning to our listeners and viewers. I bring you greetings from Mbale City. They are listening into the Capital Gang. But I'm also happy to see Susan Sivira.
I've not introduced her yet.
It is.
I passed that test.
Susan is a Gayaza high school girl. I wish Nafi was here. Then you'd hear the Gayaza girls on air. But Susan, you're welcome. I've done it as Lydia, as an OG. For you can do it as Oscar. I don't know what else, how you relate. But Susan, Karibu. I'm happy to see you here. Thank you.
We need to train you how to be Speaker of Parliament.
You see, I walked into the studios and you did not even give me the decorum. You did not stand up, so you are not wishing me well. And, I'm in the race for
I waved.
Speakership.
I waved. I don't think you saw it, but I waved.
No, you are supposed to stand up and bow.
Benjamin Katana, good to have you back on the show, and good morning to you.
Benjamin has many votes, so Benjamin, please behave.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Good morning to my colleagues here and the listeners of this show. I will be speaking very less today because anything spoken here might be used against me in the newsroom.
we could write your letter. Welcome to the Capital Gang.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you.
Yes, you gave me a good laugh yesterday when you argued against my first topic, because Joseph was saying, "What's happened to the topic?" He said, "No. Who said it's me?" But so what's happened?
What's happened?
You tell me what has happened.
You're the boss.
You called me here. Yeah. What has happened?
What has happened?
Now that is the business of journalists.
Indeed.
So she's now interviewing you.
She's looking
what's
worthy to give a headline.
Give me something worth reporting.
Nation Media Group.
Yes.
What's happening to it? What changes have happened? And why?
I can't. Well, I can only speak for the why from
the Uganda viewpoint.
No, from the shareholder perspective.
Okay.
And when you say that you were amused by my call yesterday, I think it's just, which is why I agreed to come, just to clarify the air on exactly what has happened. It is a transfer of shares where the majority shareholder, that was the Aga Khan Foundation for Economic Development, transferred or agreed to a transaction where they sell their 54% shareholding in Nation Media Group to a gentleman who is not new to media, Mr. Aziz, who is a Tanzanian entrepreneur. And so that is what has been trending this week. Now, we have documented the reasons why ACFED has decided to divest from media. And it is
ACFED is
the Aga Khan Foundation for Economic Development.
Right.
And from their perspective, they want to focus on hospitality, on industrial, on education, and media education for that, as opposed to running media. I think it is important to note that this is a partnership. This is an ownership that is over 60 from 1959. Exactly 66 years. So for somebody to say that, I'm now divesting after 66 years, of course, I think it's also important to note that the late Aga Khan, His Royal Highness, media was his passion. So obviously, with his passing and a new Aga Khan, you would expect that he probably doesn't have the same passions as his late father, which is a given. But
it is newsworthy. The Aga Khan leaving Nation Media.
I was actually quite not taken aback, but I didn't know that there was so much public interest in the affairs of Nation Media Group, and so for us to be able to and somebody was trying to called me yesterday, and I wanted to understand the public interest in the affairs of Nation Media Group. And all of it boils down to the role that Nation Media Group has played in the region regarding independent journalism, regarding the ability to tell the stories that nobody else is willing to tell. And so the major question when I look at all the analysis that independent vloggers, bloggers, and everybody trying to understand what's going on, the major question is Nation Media Group going to maintain its independent editorial stance?
A big question.
That's the big question. And that is why, everybody has become an analyst on our affairs. And I think I just want to quote and first of all say that Mr. Azizi, first of all, our Tanzanian business was co-founded by Mr. Azizi. He is the one who, when you look at Mwananchi, so Nation Media Group bought Mwananchi Communications from Mr. Azizi. And so what he has done is come back and not only take back the Tanzania business, but then now include Kenya and Uganda as well as the majority shareholder. We still have minority shareholders in the group. We all know that NMG is listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and I guess that is again where the big whatever. But I think just to quote Mr. Rostam Azizi, who is now the new majority shareholder of NMG, in his press conference on Wednesday, he pledged to uphold the editorial standards and journalistic traditions that have shaped NMG's, and he called us one of Africa's most respected media houses over the past 6 decades. And so he actually emphasized it and said NMG has for decades played a central role in shaping public discourse across East Africa. And so he's joining as a shareholder and a long-term strategic partner, but he emphasized the importance of independent media institutions in strengthening governance and professional standards across the region. He actually said it twice so that people could understand that he believes that for any society, community to develop, it needs strong independent media. So we're just going to take him at his word and believe that our editorial policy is going to remain as is. And so we wait to see what happens when the transaction is concluded over the next 3 to 4 months. Yes.
Interesting. And then at the same time, Sunday Monitor closed, and they persisted. New Vision closed first, Sunday Vision closed, and then in the same time, you've closed your Sunday paper.
This really has actually nothing to do with. It has nothing.
I know, but the coincidence of it all.
No. This is something that was planned. It's been in the works for a year. It just so happened that it happened. It has nothing to do. It has absolutely nothing to do. What happens on the Nairobi Stock Exchange with Capital Markets Authority has nothing to do with our operations here. Like you've rightly said, the Vision went first with it last year, and we persisted with it. I think when we understand the newspaper distribution system, it's a shared system. It's the same distributors, the same vendors, and so when one pulls out and then one remains, for us it just then becomes a business decision, really just based on the cost of distribution.
And what does that say about newspaper business? You think back to the Observer. Observer used to have 3 editions a week, down to 1.
Yeah.
New Vision has pulled out of a Sunday. You're out of Sunday.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That newspaper business is going down?
I mean, when you look at the numbers, yes, the newspaper business is in decline. But and that just comes to point to the changing media consumption habits. It doesn't mean that people have stopped consuming news. It just means that people have changed the way they consume the news. And so for us as a media house, the question is, how are they consuming their news, and how do we adapt and innovate into that new way of consuming news? And that is what we have been doing over the past 3-4 years. And where we are seeing growth actually is on our digital platforms. That's where we are seeing double-digit growth. So then as a business, you then say, okay, that's where now you want to be able to put your resources where you're seeing growth, as opposed to where you know that there is a steady decline. Now, of course, you've got to look at it in terms of, from my vantage point of view, we review media happenings across the world. We're a member of the World Association of Newspapers, and every day we look at trends across. You'll see, like South Africa, the City Press last month, they closed. They have a huge storied building. Everything closed, like everyone gone home. You look at the States, in the US, you see newspapers are being launched, and they're actual print newspapers. And so you look in Europe, after the decline, they're back again. So you've got to be able, when you stay on the trends and understand what's happening with the different audiences, then you adapt so that you can sustain the business.
Yeah. We've had a regime here in Uganda for 40 years. Does that affect newspapers in Uganda? Because they have a narrative, they have ideology, and in some ways they've seen Monitor fighting them, in their opinion.
Yeah. No, that's not it. That's not it. And like I said, the desire for, even when you talk to people in government on the other side, they will tell you, we need the alternative view, right? We can't all be feeding on the same menu. They say we need the alternative view. So that's not it. This is purely about, and it's not just Uganda. Like I said, it's different parts of the world. It's Kenya, it's Tanzania. Tanzania, the weekend editions are purely digital. So it's just about changing media consumption habits.
I have the rumor mongers here in the studio between Tabaro and Wandera. They always have all sorts of rumors and myths and everything, and they're both writers. So some people, especially in the ruling party,
yes, I write fairly often, but of late,
the rumor monger. That's my.
I have a background in academics, so I publish my.
But when you
I've managed the media house. I was managing director of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah.
But we never dealt in rumors there. we decimated government programs.
See how we have all laughed.
But the Monitor's been lying me space lately.
Yeah.
And there's one large on 2 pages I published.
But you Tabaro,
I published on balkanization and the Congo crisis. And the Congo crisis, it was pulled off their digital platforms. And I know where the pressure came from. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So, since they are talking editorial independence.
As I said, Susan, the rumor mongers are here. So we will get to them. But the assertions and allegations that the quality of journalism has gone down, what's your response to that? At least you can respond to that one.
I can definitely respond to that. And I can look at it from two perspectives. One is from the quality of journalists that are, first of all, coming out of the so many journalism schools. that is a definite problem, and I know it doesn't affect journalism only; it affects many professions. There is no doubt that the quality of journalists that are being produced. Before there was one media school, Makerere School of Mass Comm and whatever, but now there's so many, and the quality has utterly gone down. I see our sub-editors really struggling. Their job is to edit, but they end up rewriting. Because what is coming through from the journalists is not quality, and so a lot of time is spent rewriting. So I think the challenge has to come to look at the quality of people that are the quality of journalists, because right now I think we are on quantity, not quality. And again, people going into journalism school, but then using it as a stepping stone into a career in either politics or PR or something else, not really because they have a passion for journalism.
Indeed, most mass comm students don't go into journalism.
Exactly.
They ended up everywhere.
Yeah. So I think we have to get. I was reading yesterday about the New York Times and how it has grown, and right now they've increased their stable of journalists to 3,000. Just New York Times has grown from 2,500 to 3,000 journalists, and they're looking to grow them even more. And you look at the quality. So we have a partnership now with the Aga Khan University and the School of Media, and that's really for us to address the issue of quality in terms of training, in terms of output, because there is definitely a problem. So for us, because our editorial policy is our Bible, there are things that cannot be done. It's our compass, and so you find then that that's why a lot of rewriting is done. And of course, when you look again, even at the newsroom, and you see, older, experienced people leaving, and then you look at the young people coming in, and then so for us, it just means that we'll forever be training. Yeah.
Lydia, your guy as a girl is. But things are happening at Nation Media Group.
Well, I've listened in, and we've had that's an issue of buying in shares, and that as this is an old hand, not only in the media industry in East Africa, but also in the partnership with Nation Media. So, like all of us are saying, we'll wait to see the standards. Whether they will maintain the independent standards of covering what others cannot cover. But also, when talk about...
I like that, covering what others
cannot cover. Or may
coming
not,
from an NRM person.
Yes, what others cannot cover. But, giving some coverage that the public needs. But the biggest challenge, when talk about media, it's broad. But the biggest challenge we are all seeing about print media, let me go to print media, is, and Susan has talked about the quality of journalists and the editors, but also there is the issue, the evolution of digital media. Of course, you have those platforms, but because of the speed at which the news these days run, because of the digital, you find that the print sometimes is not catching up. By the time a story goes to bed, that's your language, and then it comes out to be put on the shelves of the streets. The news already on our phones. We've been able to pick it elsewhere. So the issue of this is a business. So the print media has started suffering, because if I've read the news on my online platform, why would I buy a hard copy? It is the conservative traditional guys that you want to buy a hard copy and go and have
she's pointing at me,
sitting down and because you're one of the writers, so but even some of your articles now go on digital, so you find that there's that challenge of speed of the news. If I've read the news online, why would I buy a print copy? So there's also that challenge of the selling has reduced. The sellouts it is not isolated to Nation Media. This is to all media houses that have a print component. I think they have that challenge. leave alone the competencies of the quality of the writing skills of the journalists. There's also the issue of selling print media. That's what I see. Yeah.
Benjamin Katana of NUP. You would say, if I predict what you're going to say, you'd say that it has been nearly miraculous for the Daily Monitor to survive this long under the NRM.
Daily Monitor annoys us in the NRM.
because some of you are intolerant.
Not just under NRM, but I think the starting point really is to pay tribute to the nation media for being the vanguard of independent media in the region. Like it has been said, and now I think it's adopted by the Washington Post as a slogan that democracy dies in darkness. If you don't have independent media that holds government accountable and speaks truth to power, then they have a free reign. So they deserve the flowers for doing the hard job, even when I think, and like she has said, while many people in government call the nation media and monitor names, enemy paper, a habit that has
everybody buys monitor.
A habit that has been passed on to the son from the father of identifying it as an enemy paper. I think they have done a commendable job in that regard. And of course, they have had troubles. If the Aga Khan, I think from the 60s, when he started the first media outlet in East Africa, it focused on really being a platform for transparency, for independent voice, and has had trouble with many regimes, the Kenyatta regime, the Moi regime, and here. Because authoritarian regimes are normally uncomfortable dealing with questions. They want to push their narratives and they become the gospel truth without being challenged. And that has attracted, of course, a lot of pushback from these authoritarian regimes. But I think legacy media generally across the globe has had challenges away from the discomfort of the authoritarian leaders lately because of the disruptions on account of the digital revolution in information. And Lydia was talking about information. When people read on X, on TikTok now, they have information. They don't have to go and read newspapers, except those who want a deeper understanding of the news that is trending. But most people are just interested in, grabbing the trending headlines. They don't care about the depth. And I think that has affected, it has affected sales, has affected so many things. And I read, I think it was last year in Kenya, where they said the profits that there had been, the profits had declined to a tune of over 90%.
Of newspaper sales.
Yes, so you and
yet they sell
you can
more
imagine,
than Uganda.
And I think across the region, both in Kenya and Uganda here, we have seen media houses trying to cut down, to downsize on the number of employees. All these challenges don't leave the media the same. We can only hope that the new leadership, the ownership of the nation media, will also push for independence, because without it, then in a region where, for example, courts of law are under captivity, you have the legislature that Lydia wants to head under captivity, you need at least an independent media that will continue to speak the truth to the population, but also to speak truth to power. So that these leaders are kept in check and held accountable for their actions. For example, the Sunday Monitor, we loved it for its bold investigative stories. We hope that the transformation that has taken place, merging the two, will not affect that. so that we can continue consuming the same quality of information regardless of the changes that have happened.
Yeah, we'll ask Susan here about the columns. But Joseph, Sunday Monitor is gone. Shares have been sold, using Sue's words here. But is there cause for worry?
First of all, I must formally again acknowledge my decent respect for Susan. I'm a feminist, but I've been in this trade for a very long time also. And as I was saying when Susan was coming, and this is for the record, you may not have known that I was one of those people who, while I was away, I used not only to write, but I used to taunt media houses. I taunted Comrade Pike, I taunted many others, saying that they needed to up the number of women in journalism. But number two, the question of quality and depth. I'm very spoiled that I attended St. Joseph's Primary School in Nagongera, and I was fantastic in English. And so, being spoiled by global media, I sometimes was generally very unkind to some of my own networks here at home in terms of question of quality and depth. So we really hope that whatever happens, as Susan commits, that question of quality is not compromised. And many people in the media, including many who listen to me, would know that continuously, whenever we have conversation, particularly Susan, with younger people in journalism, I would like to pray that people grow beyond nation media houses and then go ahead and become the best in global media wherever they can. And that can only happen when people are well-trained, well-groomed, well-cultured, and they work towards depth and excellence rather than anything else. And I think a young friend around here will attest. I happen to have started a media house in my living room in London 30 years ago. I started the Congress on my laptop. I can remember the International Voice of Uganda People's Congress. Now, looking back at where we are today and looking at the challenges, I can sort of partly sympathize with the print media, as has been suggested. But the most interesting thing that is not mentioned, and I think which somebody mentioned to me yesterday, is that actually, while the merging is taking place, the one thing that the customer does is to get better value for money, because they'll be buying one paper to cover much more depth, much more width, and covering over 2 days. But I happen to be one of those traditionalists that would always normally look towards weekend papers that do no longer do today. But Susan also doesn't know that I have my column, which has not been closed, with the Sunday Monitor. So I'm one of those people who's mourning. My letter from London, I'm told, used to make a few people, maybe some listening, quite rather uncomfortable. But I've also been told by many of those people that they used to look forward to my column, just like I'm sure they'll be looking forward to. So this is a traditional thing. But whatever happens, I think the broader, more important thing is the question of independence of the media. That the Nation Media Group going into the hands of Comrade Aziz, somebody whom I had an idea of, and I think passed through via Dar es Salaam a few decades ago, that the quality of journalism, the editorial independence is not compromised. Actually, a number of people told me that actually, because Aziz is, without prejudice, coming from Tanzania, is it going to be able to be much more independent than it would be Kenya? Because there's this perception that in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, Kenya is sort of slightly much more solid.
It's good you point that out, because sometimes we fear to say you have like a Tanzanian, Tanzania is buying a Kenyan media group, and you think, that's what you're implying.
Indeed, and in any case, just to conclude, that a number of friends from Kenya, and some of them will possibly tell Susan in Off the Boardroom, is that some of the Kenyan journalists would look through some of what we go through here, and some of our journalists here go through, including responses and reactions from government. It's the kind of thing that will not happen from Nairobi, including some of the experiences that we know the Aga Khan, the late, experienced with some of our leaders here, with the kind of things that if it happened in Nairobi, maybe somebody would not only be oughting to resign, but there would be headlines for weeks. And that has been resisted. But like Lydia says, and Lydia, we take you on this, that you recognize that the media makes you guys uncomfortable. But you recognize that the role of the media is basically to check you guys, and that you really learn from that. And as a panel of the fourth estate, and Susan, finally, part of my campaign is to make Uganda citizenship being the first estate, because my argument is that the first three estates plus the fourth and the citizens are the fifth estate, but that we the people must really be the first estate. Fifth. I know there's some people in town who think the citizen, the fifth estate, are fifth estate, but we really hope that with the new ownership and new leadership with you, Susan, that we shall restore the fifth estate to the first estate, and filth is unacceptable.
You know, Edgar, people forget. We when we had Andrew Mwenda here, it was with Nation Media. And to get Andrew Mwenda off this show, the state called the owners of Capital Radio, and that's how he was taken off. And then to get him out of Monitor, and all, again the state called the Aga Khan Foundation, and that's how they got him off.
No, so he was taken to Stanford for a fellowship.
Before that,
they arranged a fellowship for him at Stanford University.
I told you, Susan, the rumor mongers
Now you've set the tone for my submission.
But what is known in the public is the state called up Aga Khan and Aga Khan took him off.
No, they arranged a fellowship for him to attend, and it made him a better person. A wise person, right. The wise person that he is now.
The wise person.
I said the wise
Andrew is
person
a fantastic friend of mine.
But you've laid the foundation for my submission. Honorable Aziz is a politician.
Well,
he served the Irungu constituency for a period of maybe 3 or 4 terms. He's a mentee of the late President Benjamin Mkapa. You know, Mkapa trained as a journalist,
yes.
A Makerere graduate, and he was basically
a Makerere graduate.
Yes, he's a Makerere graduate. Lived in University Hall, the University Hall that I resided as well. So Benjamin Mkapa was in charge, was the ideologue of the CCM, and was in charge of its media outlets. So Honorable Aziz, being a mentee of Mkapa, gives me the kind of maybe I'm not using prejudice here, but profiling the person that he is. That is a politician. He's as well a very ravenous businessman. Owned Vodacom, and he owns Vodacom. He's in Tigo. These are 2 different telecom companies.
Yeah.
Now, a man who is able to hold shares in more than one entity in the same industry, in the same sector, where regulation should be in terms of competition
should deny him that opportunity.
But he has the leeway. So that gives you the inkling of where we are headed as in media in Uganda, because I think if you look at the structure of the media in Uganda, the structure of the and I'm talking of market, not just the editorial approaches. The structure of the market in Uganda is that NMG and Vision are the leading. Of course, Vision obviously, because it gets a good chunk of government as well as subscription. Every MDA ideally subscribes to the new Vision, and that's how they're able to keep afloat. But over time, and I like bringing historical aspects to some of these things because they don't exist in isolation. At every epoch, there have been disruptors that have come in to challenge persons in the marketplace, persons in business, in the legal sector, and the media houses were not going to be stay unaffected. And I'll start 1945 in the United States during the time of the
gone far back.
No, the time of the Great Depression. Not far back. I'm giving you a perspective. There used to be a very influential periodical called the Weekly Digest, and it was renowned for being spot on pollsters, as in spot on, even to the in statistics you talk of plus and minus, the margins of error. Yeah. They were always spot on. Now, they did a terrible prediction against FDR, Roosevelt. They predicted that the Republican John Landon was going to win that election comfortably by 70%, as in a landslide. And remember, Roosevelt was going for a third term, so they thought the people were tired of him, and this was, during the war. You remember Pearl Harbor, the time when the United States was drawn into the World War and the bombing of Japan. So, as it were, when on election day, the reverse happened. Roosevelt had a landslide. And why was that the case? Their business model that they used was wrong. They were heavily Republican. Two, they were using, in their pollster, they used the sample space they used were telephone directories.
Yeah.
Telephone directories and ownership of vehicles. Now, during the Depression, persons who had telephones and directories were purely middle class.
And cars.
And cars were purely middle class. So those ones were more likely to vote what? The Republicans, because Republicans just basically don't believe in taxing so much of business. Today. So fast forward today. And remember the large circulating papers of Muno Ngabo addressing a particular audience. And at that time, the biggest circulation of Muno, by the way, was in Budu. Why? At that time, Budu was leading in literacy in the country. Why? Because of the deliberate intention, the deliberate purpose of the Catholic Church in deepening education, Mujiji and what have you. So, but over time, that became diluted. We brought UPE, we brought universal secondary education. So, at every point in time, we've had challenges to the media. Now, in the present epoch, 70% of advertising is taken up by the global techs, Google and Meta. And so lately advertising is driven towards the social media, TikTok, X, and Facebook taking the chunk. Subscriptions in Africa have not increased. In the Republic of Uganda, digitalization is half. The digitalized population in Uganda is half of what we have in Kenya, for instance. So when you're talking about going digital and having the hard copies as opposed to the digital, you're looking at a market that is basically small and is continuing to shrink. So it's a global challenge. It's a global challenge. But I must salute really the NMG for keeping afloat amidst all these challenges. Amidst all these challenges. And I think it's a case study. It's a case study for us, not just for media, but also for business. NMG is a listed company. I think it's cross-listed on the... Only Nairobi, not Uganda. Okay. So it's a listed company, and having a media house that is listed and maintains its independence shows the value that they bring to the fourth estate. And quite frankly, I'm a regular writer, although I must say I said it on air. Of late, Monitor doesn't give me much space. I don't know why. Maybe they... Pardon? No. It's not I'm twisting. I know my positions are very clear. By the way, my positions are very clear. I make my positions on issues, critical issues in the public and the region. When
you referred to pollsters, the strong pollsters we have in Uganda,
yes,
have both gone to NRM.
But even when they publish,
Dr.
Wakida used
and the current MD of New Vision.
Yes,
those are the latest pollsters.
Yeah, but you see,
and they did the polls when they were in Monitor with NMG.
With NMG, and they showed the NRM and President Museveni clearly in the lead. That's a discussion for another day, because whereas I'm associated with the NRM, Benjamin and my big brother Joe know that I belong to the UNLF anti-dictatorship, the so-called Gang of Four. They were incorporated in the NRM, but we sit with a lot of unease with with some of the things that that the leaders do. Sounds me right.
Derek Wandera, So yeah, he promised to say less. With closure of a Sunday paper and the shares sold in NMG, we hope that you still have work over there. A lot of journalists.
Boss, whether I still have work. Yeah,
I've never seen this guy talk so nicely like this.
No, to be honest,
but this affects the whole media. A couple of weeks ago, we had Richard Kavma in the studio here. I didn't catch him, but he was on the morning show, Moses Karule's show, and he was a very powerful editor of the Observer, and he left the news completely. And it's been happening all over, as Susan said. People are leaving the media and going to do something else. So you're commendable having stayed there.
Yeah, there's certainly
you think of Ofono Pondo now is an MP. Started his work with a new vision. Yes.
Yeah, there is disruption within the media space, especially the journalism space. I've just been reading the CEO of CNN announcing a layoff of about 210 workers in the coming few months.
And yet the Times is recruiting.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that points to the number of layoffs we've seen across board in the media spaces in Uganda, but also closure of very key media houses. It's not just an isolation of NMG in terms of changes. Probably this change, like my boss said, has been pre-planned. It had been planned for over time. I get to hear many conversations in the corridors. Not that I sit in strategic meetings at Monitor, but the struggle is real in terms of the shifting numbers, the shifting manner in which media is consumed. You look at Daily Monitor in the early 2000s. Anywhere about 2014, 2015, selling anywhere about 29,000 copies a day. Maybe New Vision was a little bit higher, with around 35,000 a day. And these numbers have been dwindling over time. Now that you see that you'll struggle to make 10,000 or even 10,000 copies. Yeah,
in Uganda.
You'll struggle to make those
10,000,
and it's about the manner in which people are consuming the news. Like many have agreed that
at some point you would have thought that the Red Pepper would never have closed, because it was a closet newspaper for many men reading Red Pepper.
Not me.
Women are like.
Yeah. They'd fold it in Daily Monitor.
My father used to buy all copies of newspapers, but for one or the other reason, he would go with his Red Pepper in his bedroom. So
maybe that's why it was needed.
So I don't know whether he didn't want me to read all the content. But yeah, now we all agree that we read most of our news on our phones. It goes without say that there is a shift. More people are consuming. The digital transformation is real. I think in NMG we started talking about digital transformation about 5 or 6 years ago. We have been doing that, but not forgetting that there are conservatives who would be happy to sit on a Sunday or a Saturday, spread their legs and have their copy in their hands and read away a 2,000, 3,000 word story or an investigation or an analysis for deeper understanding. And probably that's the reason as to why the New York Times still lives up to today. That's why probably Daily Monitor still has space on the streets because of the traditionalists. Now, if they begin also waning in terms of consumption of this hard copy news, then you have a thing or two to think about the dynamics that they're in. You talk about the quality, and to be honest with you, I will tell you that we are endangered. So, about 1 week ago, a journalist was attacked on the streets of Kampala by the KCCA enforcers. And
Is he vending?
No. He was doing his job, recording and I mean taking. There has been a lot of enforcements happening on the streets of Kampala. So this journalist, is actually doing his job. So one blog, I don't know its name, comes up with a headline: KCCA officials beat NBS journalist to nearly death who filmed them while taking bribery from street workers. Someone threw it on our platform, and I looked at a would-be very good story just being killed with grammar. So one, there are two things here. One, journalism has been impeded. But two, journalism has been killed by quality in the way you dispense journalism. So language is very key in communication. And if you don't choose the mode of language you're going to use, then you're going to kill everything. So for a person who is particular with language, you read that headline and I am not reading this story, certainly. And yet this story must be read. This story must be appreciated because of the impediment on journalism. But how is it being killed? Quality. And I thank God I have gone through NMG, because it's just luck that you get there. And there is a lot of gatekeeping. There is a lot of training. There is a lot of mentorship. And go to other media houses and you'll struggle to get these skills in terms of gatekeeping and whatever is coming through, it's just thrown. And for me, that's the biggest danger that media and journalism faces, that everyone is jumping onto the bandwagon of calling themselves journalists. Journalists who do not separate between media practitioners, people who use media spaces to do whatever, and journalism. Journalism is a noble calling, a noble career. But now it's being killed by people who just jump onto it without listening to all the ethical codes of conduct that we have.
Thank you.
Now, when you look and read that headline, you will say, journalism has died. And yet we are not looking at who is dispensing this kind of
blog, as you said. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Joseph, you want to say something before we come back here to Susan?
Susan, if you hear what Derek is saying and what sort of all of us have been saying, really this is the burden of responsibility really for you, because you are at the helm of this, that every effort should really be pushed to the question of quality. But one thing which is also not being talked about is the question of terms and conditions of guys in the media. One of the many reasons why people leave is the pay, but of course that may be around your level plus, but something that we need to be able to talk about. Some journalists I've met are people whom you can't believe are actually surviving on their pay, and sometimes they're compelled to compromise their own quality and sometimes editorial positions. I used to write for the New African magazine, and when these guys were going through review, they narrowed in terms of the spaces, but the quality was not compromised. In any case, it was upped. I think it's a big challenge, but I thought Edgar also was right to refer to the Weekly Digest, which kept some of us then going until recently. I don't know really what the younger guys in literacy and journalism today look up to, but in any case, there is no reason why the new organization that is being now led by Susan cannot aim to beat the level for the rest. The future government would create an enabling environment in which that would happen, including financing and supporting those, but it would never interfere with independence of journalism here.
Okay, thank you. I hope I remember everything that everyone has said. First of all, I think Derek should have put a disclaimer on that headline. It was not. That was put on. It wasn't our headline.
No, he said
exactly. I think that's the first. I think that's the first disclaimer you should have put, because now they think that was our headline. Exactly. That's what I thought. You should have put a disclaimer.
He did. He said it's some blogger put it on your platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Now. Okay, I didn't hear that.
No, you did.
Okay. Now.
Trouble.
No trouble.
You did.
I apologize. Now, let me start with what Lydia said. Newspapers, okay, I'll say us as NMG. We moved, breaking news moved a long time ago. A long time ago. We do not break news in the newspapers anymore. That is history. The reason,
even here, Capital Gang, I tell people we don't do breaking news.
You don't do breaking news because that's already been done for you on social, right? And then it's broken on social, and then people come back to credible media houses like ourselves to check whether it's true, to verify whether it's true, and then of course after that, it's for us to do the analysis and the depth and the whatever, and that's the whole enterprise journalism. Stories that are not being told. Analysis in what's happening in health. Like our headline yesterday is malaria, why is malaria on the rise again? After we thought we were winning the battle against malaria. That was a health story. That's a big thing in terms of us to be able to understand why is malaria on the rise again. We know that malaria is the #1 killer in Uganda. That was our leading story. Often we lead with stories on reports on health, reports on auditor general reports, and analyzing them and seeing what's happening with public spending and etc.
In the health sector, mental illness, much bigger than malaria.
Yeah, but we do those stories on mental. We actually lead with stories on mental health as well. So the point I'm trying to make here, I'm being told I'm too loud.
No, it's not true.
The point I'm trying to make here is that we moved beyond breaking news a long time ago. When it comes to Edgar's submission, I am not involved in the day-to-day what happens, story choice and everything. And that's a story you need to have a chat with your editor to actually understand. I do know that, people say newspapers are dead, we're not reading. But everyone wants to write. And they want to write and they want to see their stories. But no, nobody's reading. Now, when it comes to revenue, even if I break down in terms of revenue, even with all that's being said, this hard newspaper, which people say nobody is reading and whatever, that is still 60% of our revenue. That is what is keeping our doors open. That is what pays my salary and pays everybody else. That is 60% of it. Even when people saying nobody's reading, digital revenue, let's be honest. And I've seen it because every year we have a Digital Media Africa conference. And those media houses that are purely digital are now looking for alternative sources of revenue because it does not keep the doors open.
Exactly.
It does not pay the salaries that can keep people employed. So we have that delicate balance, and that's my monkey. How do you balance between keeping the legacy and then growing the digital? Because this legacy is what is supporting the digital. So you can't. I can't go. When you introduced me to Joseph outside there, Oscar, you said that he's the most optimistic person, right? That you've met. I don't know whether it's to do with politics. Now, for me with media,
it's upbringing. Now go and get a primary school.
Now for me, I cannot.
I have switched off his microphone.
Exactly. Now for me, I cannot go with a narrative where people are saying because the newspaper that say the newspapers are dead because when I look at the numbers, it's what is keeping me in business. You understand? It's what keeps keeping the doors open, from the courier to the vendors or whatever. That's what is happening.
To Wandera here, who we regularly invite.
To Wandera here. Yeah. So I can't go with that narrative. I have to block out that noise and then understand that I've got to sustain this legacy business, and then we've got to grow because that's where we're seeing double-digit growth in terms of digital. But bottom line, if you were to strip us and say go digital only, trust me, everyone will go home. Every single person will go home. So that's my monkey. Like you said, that's my monkey. Now, of course, we're always thinking, how do we motivate? How do we pay people better? How do we fare? And of course, when you look just across this market, of course, there are things that will happen on First Street. They closed all the regional newspapers, all of them. That was like 2-3 years ago. All of them gone. That was a whole, when I was marketing there, those were big things that we're doing with those regional whatever. But all closed. You understand? So it's important for us to then look and say, within what we're doing now, how can we ensure that we are giving, and that also keeps me awake at night, to make sure that we're paying people a decent wage, so to speak, a decent wage. And we're looking at those numbers, and seeing that what are the changes that we can make. And of course, from our perspective, we've got to work with the different heads of department and say, in order for you to be able to pay your people better, these are the changes that you have to make. And as any business owner, that's really what you've got to do. Now, again, even when you say big tech and what big tech has done to the advertising revenue. So what newspaper publishers are doing globally when they come together is go to big tech, go to Meta, go to the alphabet company, Google, go to them and say, look, what percentage of your content is news? And what Google and the big tech companies are doing is they scrape our sites. They scrape our sites for content which we pay people to produce. And then they publish it for free. And they've got the eyes because it's big tech when you search and etc. So what publishers have done, and the recent one was South Africa, they got together and they went to the big tech and said, this is the value of the news that you scrape off our websites. Right? And so you're going to pay us an annual fee for what you're taking off our websites. And they've signed, and they're paying then they're paying for the news content from the newspaper publishers. Now, unfortunately for us in East Africa, Uganda, for example, now you'd only be told, and they don't work with government. So if they were to come to Uganda, they would only deal with us. You understand? Because they don't work with government publications. They work with independent, privately owned media. So in terms of discussions with big tech, that's now us as NMG. We have to find our footing and go and have that discussion with NMG, because we've actually worked out the value of content that is being published off on all these Opera, Phoenix, all that. We've actually worked out the value. Their head offices are in Nairobi, and that's the next stage for us to be able to defend our turf against those actions. I appreciate, like I said, I don't fault anybody for taking an interest in our business. Like I said, I understand now as MD, because this is my third year. I understand now the public interest in NMG is because people look at us and say, guys, you're the ones who are telling us the stories that nobody is telling. We came back after the election and we showed. In fact,
Susan,
people,
just pause there for a second, because I want to take you there for another 15 minutes. Yeah. We stop for a break and then we'll come back to you. Yeah. We'll come back from the break. I interrupted you, but you had started talking about gatekeeping, and Derek Wandera brought it up. Yeah. Not fully, but in Uganda now we have that aspect of self-censorship,
of course, in
all media houses, even here.
True.
And in just a few minutes here, talk about elections, because the first election, the by-election of Kawempe, that one specialized in beating up your people, beating up journalists. And some media houses did not send any journalist. I know Capital didn't. It wasn't that much in the election itself, but how do you handle that?
I think, Kawempe was a real turning point in targeted violence towards journalists, and this one was really specific. And the result of our decision to pull journalists from the field, was after that, we got the ban from covering the president. And then, of course, part of our coverage on the run-up to the elections, where we talked about how candidates in the Bukedea region had been taken off the EC register. Then that got us banned from covering Parliament. Bukedea.
You.
So the district.
Not in Bale.
So I think the
Is that ban still effective from Parliament?
yeah.
Okay.
We hope that when people. That old girl of Gaza. So I think so they comes to that point where yes, journalists themselves will even censor what they write even before it gets to the editor's desk
To play safe.
to just so that they can stay out of trouble. But I think for us as NMG, I think everything that we stand for is embroiled in our editorial policy. And I think it's important for us to remember that the only currency that we deal in as a media house is trust. If we lose the trust of our audiences, if we lose the trust of our readers, we are buried. That is what our currency is. And it's actually embedded in our mission statement. We have to be a content platform that is trusted. The number one thing is trusted. Because people come to us because they trust what we are doing.
Yes, they some name throwing is an Edgar thing always, but there's a time I was invited to State House with other media people, and I was invited to say something as an elder, having been an elder in the media. And on that occasion, there was one person from Monitor who was from Nation, I think either Monitor or NTV. And I said to the president, whatever they did, please forgive them and don't call them evil because you're the father of the country. So when the president calls Monitor evil, how do you respond?
You've got to look at it. It's nothing new. I said. We marked 40 years of NRM. Daily Monitor is, I think, 34 years in existence, and it's been 34 years of a tumultuous relationship, so to speak. It's one of those marriages where, it's and yet somehow, but the bottom line is that I'll just borrow his words, is that we all need each other at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Government, the powers that be, need someone to actually tell them the truth in what is going on.
Very important.
And hold institutions accountable. And somebody has got to tell that story. You never want to get to a space where the alternative voice is completely suppressed. And so our promise is that we'll continue to do that.
Well, we wish you the best. We missed the Sunday Monitor, so we wouldn't like.
It's not.
But the columnists are in. It's now called the Weekend Monitor, and the columnists are in there.
Tegule.
And for those that, for other content that will be premium content on our behind the paywall on our website. So that which is because, like I said, we've got to do the balance between the print and the digital. So if you don't find the content in the print, you will find it. You'll find it by subscribing.
When I was still doing television, my producer wouldn't allow me to invite Gawaya Tigers. I said I've invited. I said, oh no, this self-censorship is big.
Yeah.
Edgar, moving on to our next topic.
I gave him a job at UBC,
Yeah.
and he was our editor.
Well, so if you were at UBC, you'd still give him a job.
Certainly.
I
commend you.
I'm one of the people who Edgar.
I had Gawe Tegule, I had Agra Wall, Awori as a regular panelist, and he was still with the UPC. And which was the other controversial?
But you refused to invite me.
You were in London. This is 2005. 2000.
But
I was a very young person. I was 29 years old.
yeah. But Edgar, is traffic going to be better in Kampala? We've had enforcement. This question is good to start with you and Wandera. Seeing that I accused you of rumor mongering, the enforcement.
You accused me as well?
Yes.
I'm not a rumor monger.
It's your bread and butter.
And you wait for his submission. He's going. This one you'll be with Katana, but
it's traffic.
So traffic now we have good enforcement. Police is out. Police spokesman has given. I tried to invite him. Patricia tried to invite him. We couldn't get him, but they've needed military police as well. So I guess we're going to have good traffic.
You're talking about you invited what?
The police spokesman.
Police spokesman.
Yeah.
I think I read. I know I've been away. I came in last night from Bujumbura, and I read the UBC website quoting Chris Magezi, and you're now here talking over the traffic. But no, but you're now talking over the police. I think you should have invited Chris Magezi rather than
police spokesman.
Because in these operations, sometimes there's interagency rivalry, and when there's interagency rivalry, you know who takes. Who
there's a video
of
a police PR. I mean, speaking and saying they will arrest the military people as well if they misbehave on the road, which is what should happen.
No, exactly. That's what I want to come to. The traffic transport problem in Kampala, particularly, is not just about enforcement. It's an urban governance challenge, urban governance challenge and planning. We have a city that was designed for 400,000, at most 700,000 people. And we now have a daytime population of between 4 million and 5 million, all having to squeeze into spaces of very narrow roads, absence of traffic flow management. Traffic flow management is managed in Kampala by human beings. You have one police personnel at an intersection of roads and blowing a whistle this way, then this. I mean, no formula is being applied in smart cities. The traffic lights are. The traffic. I mean, even the ones controlling the traffic stand the danger of being knocked down by either a moving vehicle and our never-ending border borders.
In our area, traffic has really grown. Kajansi, and they do a wonderful job trying to manage us.
Because it is a little more planned, So traffic flow there is likely to be much easier than the rest. So it's about planning, it's about governance, and as well about impunity. Many of the systemic structural challenges in Uganda we have arise from impunity. If you can tame impunity in this country, then everything else might just fall in order. It's not necessarily the magic wand or the silver bullet, but we'll have a beginning. That if you can say, arrest a general, arrest a minister who is speeding, who's driving over islands, who's driving in a one-way traffic road, driving in the opposite direction and disrupting. They will say, get a minister, get a general, arraign them at the traffic court, send them to Ruzira. It will send a sign to the rest of us that we can't do things and get away with them. Planning of cities. We have planning regulations, but do we enforce them? I live in a suburb called Moyeng. It has many outlets into the city, but there's only one functional outlet. The others either have potholes or molds of soil, earth, almost in the middle of the road. You have utility companies that are digging up the road without even informing us. And it's about 5 kilometers from where I reside and where I work, which is in Nakasero. It takes me an hour and a half between leaving home and getting to my place of work. And that is the earliest I can get there. Sometimes when the head of state has used that road, it takes me more than 2 hours, sometimes 2 hours and a half. I mean, that's a lot of time that we lose.
The speaker, not even the head of state.
Well, the head of state takes precedence, and I appreciate that inconvenience. But really, and for instance, I mean, the security challenge is the head of state. You can't wish it away. I mean, you can't wish it away. We live with it. Chief, we live with it. We live with those consequences. That's what we elected ourselves for. We must live with the consequences. When he's passing, roads get shut, and he lives in Akasero. And the time when he's using Lugogo Ginger Road, believe me, traffic is terribly what? So we need a smart, with AI, synchronization of all these traffic lights. You can, for instance, command that the roads that are emptying the city be given priority so as to reduce on congestion. Then in my neighborhood, we have 8th Street that has been redone, but it has been under construction for the last 3 years. Either they are adding humps, they are doing this and that. But then you have the 6th and the 5th Street that are still under construction. And some bits of the streets have gullies. So you are left with only one outlet and only one, as in, you have choices, but the choices are paternalistic. You either take this one that is a good road and encounter the what? The heavy traffic, or you take the other that are badly done, you increase on your wear and tear, and the budget for buying car parts. So it's systemic, and it arises from the frame mind, the mindset of people, that we can do literally each and anything and get away with it. So we must deal with impunity. The rest we are dealing with symptoms rather than the cause.
Derek Wandera,
started from the
pardon?
offender, now you are
to the super offender.
No. So on
as I said, Benjamin, the two rumormongers are here.
So on Monday,
but you
Monday
know,
morning,
Edgar has stated why we need this orderly system and so on. But do we need military police to do it?
So on Monday, at around 9, so my editor calls me and says, we've discovered there's a lot of traffic that's happening along Gayaza Road. Can you kindly run there and check out? So I reach and expected to find traffic police officers. I found heavily armed military officers, some from the SFC, I can say, and there were 2 points. Little did I see any traffic officer. At some point, military men had to wear the reflector of traffic officers. So they actually usurped the power of the traffic officers. And from my journalistic view, I wanted to know what exactly it is that they are looking for. Now, we all here are drivers. And we know when you're stopped by a traffic officer, they are going to ask for your driving license. They're going to look at your third party, look at whether you've been speeding or whatever. And if you're cleared, you go. I was amazed that not many times did they ask for the driving license. One, the biggest question was checking on who are the occupants of the car. So open your doors and we check who are the occupants of the car. And then they tell you to open your car trunk. Then upon opening your car trunk, then these others were actually trivialized on that day. Your driver's license and the third party taxes and stuff like insurance. And this hit me hard. I wondered. So I give my editor a call and I say, I don't understand the kind of traffic enforcement that's happening today. And we wrote a story. I wrote a story which was first published on our digital platforms and then later carried into the papers. And a few hours later, of course, the spokesperson of police now, of the army, responds to the story with a statement. saying, no, we are not looking for anyone in particular. We are just enforcing traffic, but we are doing this jointly and stuff. Of course, I had talked to the spokesperson of police, but also the spokesperson of traffic. And I was wondering, I can hardly see you in this enforcement. What's happening? They said, no, we are around. But these people are just helping us. So, and also the timing, you're questioning the timing. Why now do we have, because there have been so many generals I've seen on the streets causing a lot of mayhem, some of whom have slapped traffic officers in their way of running. And so we question, why now? Without insinuating or even bringing about innuendos, I feel the work of enforcement can still be done by the traffic officers themselves, and very ably, because we've seen they have done that before. And without avoidance of doubt, from Monday up anyway about Thursday or so, this enforcement spread through most of the roads within the Kampala metropolitan. And trust you me, there was more mess on the road on those days than there have ever been. There was more traffic on those
which days?
Between Monday and Thursday. There was more slowness of traffic.
Arising from?
The enforcement and whatever, the roadblocks and whatever was happening. For someone to move between Gayaza, because I live along somewhere there, between Gayaza and town, there are people who used more than 4 hours to get to town, just on that day. On a normal day, when there is...
And yet the enforcement was about improving traffic.
Yeah, but it just messed it up even more. On a good day, when there is no more traffic, you would use anywhere about an hour, depending on how and when you leave home. But people used 4 hours, 5 hours. So we can debate this in isolation, but we need to also question why
motives. Benjamin is going to tell
other
us.
People to this.
On this one also, Benjamin peddles rumors, so he's going to peddle another
information, but on account of the self-censorship that media houses are enduring in Uganda, they choose to label it as mongering. But first of all is that, like Derek has mentioned, at most of these roadblocks, they are not looking out for traffic-related matters. In any case, most of these fellows that are putting on military uniform don't even know road signs. How are they going to enforce the provisions of the traffic control? Because they have not been trained to do that. But there is context. Shortly after the elections, they staged similar roadblocks on most of the entries into the city, and they were arresting people who even just had photos of the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi on their phones. And clearly, also previously, a few weeks ago, you remember what the Chief of Defense Forces posted on his X account, indicating that soldiers have been given an order to hunt down our leader of NUP and bring him in, dead or alive. So what you call rumors on the that indeed these operations are intended to hunt him down and bring him in. I'm told that some of the places, when they stop border people, they ask them to remove their helmets because they have been told that sometimes he's the one riding, putting on a helmet. So these are not just rumors, but there are conclusions.
When we used to hear stories when the president was when Museveni was in the bush, they were saying sometimes he would become like a cat, a wild cat or a monkey, or he would cross the borders, you putting on a gomas with a big hair or a wig or nice hair like that of Susan.
So we should start arresting cats now.
So the deployment of the army on the streets now, in my view, has got nothing to do with enforcement of traffic. But back to the topic of traffic, I don't see whatever is happening leading to reduction in congestion on our streets. And Edgar has given a very good foundation about the narrow roads and the culture of impunity. The culture of impunity, which now the impunity is not just exercised by people in positions of authority. It has become part of
our culture.
Our society has been infected by the NRA mentality, which the successor entitled to NRA is NRM.
NRA people are very disciplined.
Of lawlessness.
NRA people are very disciplined.
No, which actions?
Original NRA
which actions of theirs were guided by the law? No, which actions of theirs were guided by the law?
Only to the they were revolutionary only to the
about lawlessness.
That they were kicking out the jaw or channels of this world.
Yes,
and these were real bandits, man.
Yes.
Some of them bandits. My
point is about lawlessness, and so it has become acceptable conduct in our society for people to break the law and get away with it. When we talk about rule of law, many times people look at it from a very narrow context of human rights, of governance, but it extends beyond that. People do not have the basic decency to respect any rules in this country. People park in the middle of the road, powerful or powerless. Even taxi drivers, border riders, and all of us ordinary citizens. But the essence of government is that it should be able, why governments exist, that it should be able to crack the whip and ensure that there is common good. But we have a government that is absent and is only focused on keeping in power. You know, the challenge with most authoritarian regimes, dictatorships, they are normally too weak to serve society, but only powerful enough to keep power. And that is the state where we are. That the state has increasingly become weak and incapable of enforcing the basic rules when that enforcement is not intended to protect those in power. So you have people who are throwing bottles on the streets. They tell you we have cameras. They are using cameras to crack the whip on protesters, but they are not using the cameras to crack the whip on people who are infesting our population with bottles out of the windows. You have people driving on the streets without number plates. You have everyone having sirens. You see police. Ordinarily, while sometimes they have a reason to drive in different directions, flouting traffic rules, but you see, because they are delivering a boss for lunch, they are driving on pavements.
Lunch is legitimate. The other things.
Yes, I use it. and so you have even people who are driving ambulances. Sometimes it's just the driver not even going to do anything, but because we have failed to teach our society that it is important to respect rules. When we talk about justice as a law of nature, it is not just talked about in the context of politics, like many people want to present it, but that every citizen must understand that they have a duty to conduct themselves in a manner that will allow other people, other citizens, to also enjoy their citizenship, to enjoy access to these roads. And then we have the monster that people fear, also because it has become common, the corruption and bribery on the streets by the traffic cops. When they stop a person, many times they are more focused on picking the money. Edgar has talked about the construction that is never progressing. You cannot easily disassociate that from the impunity that is associated with the corruption in the procurement of these services. But also because of the wrong priorities of government, you hire companies, put them on site, you don't pay them because the money is diverted and it goes to other things. They have, where I live, I don't live in the city like Edgar. I live in Chira. We have roads that have been very short roads. They have been constructing for the last I don't know how many years, and as a result, because you can only use a quarter of the road, and both the traffic approaching from where you're going and the one approaching from where you're coming from, you are in a very, very narrow space, causing a gridlock. When the road has been completed, then the people of National Water or people extending the cable of this internet network, they come and cut it
and dig it up.
So
the amount of soil on, they never remove.
There is a lot of chaos, and in that chaos, unfortunately, the the chaos that is in our country and in our city cannot be disassociated from governance, from leadership of the country. Okay. And unfortunately for the country, the NRM now is going through what you would call political decay, incapable of reform.
Really? Incapable
of reform? It's incapable of reform. Yeah. That is why, because even the ideas of reform are largely knee-jerk. They say if there's a problem with the city, why don't you deploy the army? Instead of... So the army comes for 1 week.
Don't return to default settings.
No, even when they come for 1 week, in that 1 week they also run big bribes like the cops who have been there. In fact, during the COVID during the COVID time, a soldier told me that, for a long time Ugandans had a very good opinion about UPDF. But now, because they didn't know much about it, but now we have made a mistake of bringing them to the streets to operate with the police. People are going to see all the bad manners of the army that they didn't know.
Thank you, we're going to stop for a break, and after the break we'll start with you, Susan, on how do you then advise your editor to publish such a story? Edgar says, this traffic control is needed. One editor says, Sinistan, it's not working. Benjamin asserts that they are looking for his principal. Let's stop for a quick break. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. Susan Sibirwa, MD, Daily Monitor. How then would you cover a story? You've just listened to 3 narratives on this table and a little bit more in the break.
I think really for us, and I'm not the general manager editorial. I'm not the managing editor, but my understanding is to get the facts and establish the facts. And then hear from the various, which is why Derek said, they reached out to the police, they reached out to the OC traffic, just to get their various views. And then ours is to present those views, and then let the public make their choice on based on their experience. That's really what it is that we do. So it is really about the facts, and I think we are in an era, and I think. We've seen from our who was formerly a big brother in the US that truth can be as relative as you want it to be. It's quite interesting, especially coming from the recent election coverage. You look at something and then you look at somebody's explanation of the situation, and then you're actually thinking like, are you listening to yourself? Like, do you actually believe what you're saying? These are the facts, and this is what you're saying.
Was this about the wire that was cut in the ocean that led to loss of internet?
You're just thinking and so I think
the official position.
Balaam is an official.
So I think we're at that point where truth as we know it has been so diluted and bastardized, and people look straight in a camera and they tell a lie with a straight face. And everybody around you, even the camera people, look at you and they know that you're telling a lie. But because of the position that you're trying to defend or whatever it is, I used to say, I don't know how people go to sleep at night. And then somebody said, who said anything about sleep at night? So I think we just to talk about the lawlessness, once we failed to regulate the borders, and traffic lights apply only to cars, they don't apply to borders. Once we failed once you fail, and then now any car, Derek, even your car, if you decide you want to go the other way, you will go the other way, and that's it, and you'll get away with it. I keep saying that right now, any person in uniform can do anything with traffic light. They can put sirens on a Toyota Noah. They put sirens on a Toyota Noah, yes, or a Vitz, and come and approach. If you're on John Baibiha Acacia, start from here and go across on the opposite. And just because you're in uniform, it's a siren on a Toyota Vitz, nobody's going to stop you. That's the lawlessness we have, and so. But you see, for me, the sad part is that it is now it has crept into it. The sad part is that they're very, so it's, when you look at primary school prefect elections, it used to be something so simple for primary schools to elect their prefects. But now it's posters, parents putting their children in roofless cars and promising and paying money, promising things.
There was a story sometime back of Luchamu's son having lost an election.
Yes.
In P5. Then he said, next time, my dad refused to give me money.
Exactly.
Next time, I'll mobilize from money outside the family.
So you see, the challenge now is that now even our children have been brought up, you're sitting in the cars you're seeing your parent doing exactly the wrong thing in traffic. So that's what you grow up seeing as normal. So I think for me, as a society, I think we need to have discussions where we actually go back to the drawing board. This kind of lawlessness cannot build Uganda at any one point in time. It cannot build Uganda. This lawlessness cannot, and someone rightly said that it boils down to governance. It boils down to leadership. It boils down to leadership at the I was driving here this morning, and there's a road that is being constructed in a swamp. Steadily but surely, there's a road being constructed in a swamp. Before you know it, you're going to see a housing estate in that swamp. And it's all happening under the eyes of... So when does community stand up and tell people, those of you who live in Chira, you've seen, we call it a dormitory, built right in the road reserve. And right now, we swim through lakes every day just to live. So I think at the end of it all, until as Ugandans we actually realize that none of us are gaining from this lawlessness, and so we've got to rise up and say, guys, enough of the lawlessness. Let's go back to the basics of what a decent moral society should be.
Susan, I'll leave schools alone. I'll invite Derek Wandera to cover our elections this year.
Your election is also done the same way?
We want even to export the service because we are
doing it very well.
Very, very well. Bloodless, no violence.
An election in Africa.
Smooth, accepted.
An election in Africa that is bloodless.
Yes. We do it online. Results are out that evening. And celebration next day, and we move.
Do you have biometric voter registration?
We have all of that, yes.
And they are working?
Completely.
Maybe the EC should benchmark with you.
I keep saying we should export our services. But Joseph, you're on the microphone.
I think you're joking, but if that's actually what you do at your school, maybe you should actually bring it as a topic. So we have a conversation and we save many of the public schools, many of the private schools.
Joseph, you'll visit us when we have an election.
No, looking forward.
You are allowed one poster, and you can draw any more that you wish, but
looking forward,
very seamless.
And we would really save parents because this is a national crisis at the moment. But that said, on this topic, I think it's been said, bottom line is governance. But I will just have to make 2-3 quick disclaimers. One, Edgar suggests that being a president gives you the entitlement to subject citizens to what Mr. Museveni is doing. I totally disagree. On the question of security, I will talk of experiences. One, I wrote actually, Susan, in my then Sunday column on David Cameron in 2 Range Rover cars traveling from Downing Street to the big court where he was to testify. At the time, it was a very heavily heated stuff for which they should really have had big security conscious question on their prime minister, serving prime minister. He went 2 Benzes. Of course, the media, as usual, followed him and it was live on television. Number 2, I've also written on your column that Tony Blair, once upon a time, crossed with me on Old Kent Road, going down Kent in 2 Range Rovers. This time granted against with police outriders. The guy waved at me, of course. Had an idea. That's a channel or for all that kind of stuff.
You wish.
But I'm making a point, and I was just going down the road at a supermarket.
But they've never had ADF. They've never had LRA.
Now I bring you. Now I bring.
Mr. Musoke, I live in Bujumbura. The president. I've shown you pictures of his convoy. 4 cars. And at most we are convenienced when it's passing 5. Now 5. But we've had a rebellion just 20 kilometers away from Bujumbura in Uvira.
In fact, the previous one used to play football as well.
Yes.
And so therefore the third one brings me back to home, where you talk about rebellion. In 1985, shortly before July, it would have been possible about May, I was actually escorting my Mugisu girlfriend from down here, John Babiha, Akasha, down the road.
You also had them besides the others.
She was schoolmate. I was just trying to say to impress Lydia. No, but it's a fact. On Lower Kololo, Upper Kololo, 7 o'clock in the evening, 2 Mercedes-Benz cars passed me, and in a slow motion, who is it? Old Milton, from down the road here. Old Milton going to his home in Impala Avenue. You know, that is before dusk. Do you know what? At that time, the Museveni bandits were here throwing bombs up to Crested Towers, down. You know, so what is this that we're talking about? So extraordinarily that this could happen, and what a convoy without another minister in that line of convoy would not have been more than 5 vehicles. And I know Paul Mwanga used to pass down here in his way to work. 3 vehicles at most. What is it that has actually happened today? It is impunity. It's completely unacceptable. You know, and I think Susan was talking about the cost that was during break, of how much, without going into too much details. That the amount of money we spend on these guys is so huge, side by side with our failure basically to maintain our roads. So these governance issues. By the way, I don't know that anybody has gone to Nigeria Hospital as a patient, you know, gone to Nigeria Hospital as a patient and come out and voted for NRA. No, the issue is this. It's attitude, it's indiscipline, it's impunity, it's arrogance and violence.
Joseph knows that Nigeria is my village. and people who live at our home, they actually vote NRM. In Nigeria.
In your home?
Yeah. In my judge's home.
No comment. But I think as Derek was saying, the day before yesterday, turns out actually near Nigeria, I saw a guy on a phone, and whoever that guy is shame on him. He was speaking on the phone and was pulled off by the police officers. And he just went on. He just continued. He disregarded police officers at a junction here in Chiwatile. And I said, extraordinary, but that happens. And then, once upon a time, I was sort of pulled, I was a bit confused on Entebbe Road by the clock tower, by the new Rise Up stuff. And a senior police officer this time noticed that I was actually quite confused. So he recognized me, calls me as a Mr. Ochieno, laughs at me and says people make mistakes all the time, and starts talking about people who make traffic errors. But the guy told me that, look, this border madness is a creation of us, people in politics, and then for them they don't know what to do. I met Kajina.
Finish off.
I met Kajina just as she was leaving Yundra. Fantastic lady. She was doing a great job there. And in the course of the conversation, when you talk, you realize that some of these issues, you know, are sort of helpless amidst the madness. And finally, to finish off, the other day Nabanja was out on the road. Did you guys see that story? Nabanja on the road with my good friend Musa Ichweru, and they're doing a bit of a Tanzanian late president stuff on the road. And they're saying, what these people are talking about, what Nabanja was talking about, which planet has she been living on? And where are the key officials? Where are the people who commissioned these guys? Who are the people who are responsible for compliance and monitoring? You know, it's a broken system, and the sooner we're able to sort out these things, the better. But finally, it is about transportation, as my brother Edgar was talking about, planning Kampala. They've killed our trains, they've killed our public service buses, they've killed the broader planning, Greater Kampala planning. I told Susan's network once upon a time when we were just returning with Jimmy 20 years ago, and I think some people taunted me on KFM at the time that, look, you know, an estate starts in Chira. Before it starts, you plan it, you put in the roads, you put in the water, you put in the electricity, and then it's however private it is, you have to do that. I've worked in local government, so I've seen what's happening. It's a mess here. Only a future UPC government will sort out this mess.
You see,
sometimes Joseph Ochieno spoils a good argument.
Lydia needs to tell us if she will also be closing roads around Serena when she becomes speaker, like the current one does.
from Bugolobi to Parliament.
I've been with you here for so many years. Have I blocked you? Have I told you? You mean I don't have any power now? I have some.
So Lydia, true reviews. Lydia,
the former CDF General David Mohozi. I mean, very simple, very simple. He could even appear in a place.
He still is.
I said former CDF. It's still simple.
It's still very simple.
It's still
very
no heavy convoy, no one.
Nothing.
The former IGP, General, not General, Martin Okoth. Martin Okoth too. No, nothing like sirens. Yes, he had his convoy, but he would stop like everyone else. But then I think some fellows would get off the whatever to give us clearance.
Lydia, in the last 10 minutes.
Let me first get there, then if the first gang we come and talk about it. Don't just... let me first get there so that you can test properly.
Indeed, Lydia, we 10 minutes to the end of the show, and I want to ask a different question of you. Yes, we've discussed enough on this one. But Edgar, you hold on.
Just 1 second.
You put in there a second.
Okay.
But how far have you gone with expressing your interest to become a Right Honourable Speaker? With SEC putting out announcements every other day, have you given up and said,
before I have the chance to close roads?
So are you putting up your hands and saying, I concede?
Oscar, there are no contradictions what you have been seeing in the media.
Yeah.
The expression of interest is rule number 9. It's clear. It will terminate if the discussion happens in caucus. So from caucus, we shall come with candidates of the NRM to take to Parliament for elections. So I have put in my expression of interest. They can only take it in or reject it, and that will happen in the NRM caucus.
But haven't they rejected it by saying this is who we have?
Oh, nobody has rejected it because no one has first of all called me or have not received. I wrote formally. So nobody. Well, Parliament. You can laugh, but Parliament is actually very legalistic in procedure. So I'm applying to an institution that is run through rules of procedure. What else do you want me to do? To go stampeding on the tables of the house? No. To go on the media and start shouting? I will not. I'm going to follow the rules because the institution I'm applying to be deployed is run by rules of procedure. If it was about something else, maybe I would be playing another game. I'm just following that institution that I'm going to apply is purely about rules of procedure. And Parliament of Uganda lives its own life. The 12th Parliament will have its own life. It will have its own rules of procedure. It's run by rule of law. And that's what I want to do. So don't pull me to what I'm not want to do. If it wasn't a legalistic rule of procedure institution, I would be maybe dancing at a rally because you can also apply to be a mobilizer. So I would be trying out strokes of I don't know who to, but I'm applying to run. Hey, yes, and then I'll go and deploy some extra bum because I don't have this bum for dancing. You see, so you see there are so many jobs in NRM. You see, Oscar, there are many NRM. There are so many jobs in NRM. There are those who are mobilizers. There are those who make the dress, the yellow thing. There are those who play the drums. I'm applying for that job. It's about procedures. It's about rule of law. It's about writing the laws of our country. So how do you expect me to play contrarily? I will not. But when we get to the caucus and I say, Lydia, you're not fit for the purpose, I will salute and sit down. But if they give it to me, I will take it, and for sure I'll run Parliament the best way you want it to be. And Susan also went to Guyana. Sam, we two of us today.
The world in which we're groomed and taught is long gone.
We're not fit for purpose.
It's gone. The Uganda has moved past us. We're adjust or go.
No. For now, the rules.
I also disagree. Edgar, as I told you, Joseph Otieno, ever optimistic, and Susan Sibira here has said optimistic. My job is to train youngsters, and I live with that hope, and I deliver.
For the global.
No, even for Uganda.
Even for Uganda.
That's what I do.
Let me tell you, Oscar, and the listeners. I'm going to make a compelling case for purpose of Speaker of the Fifth Parliament, and I'll leave it to the caucus to decide. If they think I'm not fit for the purpose, I'll raise my hands, bow down to the candidate, and they go to vote for that candidate in the main house. But for now, I'm following the rules, and I think I am fit for purpose.
Caucus allow you to address it, considering that the top organ of the party has already come up with a decision.
But why are you reading that letter in part? Because they said there will be caucus, and that those who have a good case, you will be given chance to present. And I think I have a good case. So let me talk about traffic. No, for issue of speaker, for issue of speaker, when I come here next time, including Benjamin, who has many votes, please, you begin. Let help me start practicing decorum. Practicing how to even treat people, practicing how to be tolerant.
Considering the standards that have been credit to Lydia.
Considering not to use a lot of power because there is so much power. And
considering the standards that have been set by the current leadership of Parliament, you don't need a route of training.
What raised that?
Thank you.
So on issue of traffic, yes. Oscar, for me in Uganda, and I think, I don't know if I told it you or whatever, you see, it's interesting that Ugandans, the way we have been, it's like we're in a small port and we roll there. Because all of us wake up around 6 and now hit the traffic. Before 6 o'clock or before 5:30, roads have no people. But 6:30, everybody is on this. Then we begin saying, traffic. Why don't you become a little clever and out of the norm?
No, the traffic is acceptable.
About home. Then then like hell would have it, even people who are constructing roads also appear on the roads in the morning. At night there is no road construction. I don't know. Is it a policy issue that you cannot construct at night while the roads are a bit more free? Because we have been outside Uganda, there is a lot of construction of roads at night. But here it is knock off at 5, you all go home. Then you all wake up in the morning and come and fight on the street.
Lydia, I'm going to allow guys and girls to speak last.
The floods.
Yes. Huh? I'm going to allow guys and girls to speak last. Let these people squeeze in a sentence.
The dry season, there's nothing. There's no talking about opening drainage, constructive drainage. But when now it's raining, then everybody is running to preempt floods. People are moving in buckets. I don't know
blaming one developer.
But yet we know very well.
Joseph, what was your 1 minute? Lydia, hold on 1 minute, Joseph.
I think she made an emphasis that might easily get lost. She's simply saying that she's testing the system within NRM, and it's a really bit to have credit.
I'm just doing what is right.
In other words, she's trying to do what is right in a space in which she's doing a right thing in a space in which things are very, very wrong. And to your credit,
you wait for the outcome.
Lydia, I thought I was crediting you that you.
I've switched off your microphone. Benjamin, your one sentence. Benjamin, your one sentence.
The new sentence is that Uganda needs a fresh start, a fresh government, that you cannot have well-managed traffic in a country that is poorly managed.
Okay. Derek, your one sentence. Benjamin managed to squeeze in 4 or 5.
Institutions. Yeah, of course. I've been speaking little. Institutional breakdown in the country is very real, to the extent that if you find that traffic officers are thrown off their jobs and other institutions are coming in, I feel
Edgar, 1 minute.
An introspection as a country.
Well, I'll say it in one sentence. Deal with impunity that has developed as a culture. And the rest will follow.
Yeah, they brought military police. They are dealing with impunity.
Deal with impunity.
So conclusions, Susan Sibira. We'll have a guys and girls speak last, and Right Honourable Wanyoto will speak last on the capital gang.
Well, well, since in the initial discussion was about NMG, I'll just take the opportunity to thank our audiences, to thank our readers, to thank everybody who has an interest, and to really say thank you for your support through the years, and we promise to continue to deliver as to our policies. Thank you.
Usually we have a real gang at the back here, out of studio, where there are no cameras, no self-censorship, nothing. So prepare yourself for the questions that are coming in that session, because there will be real hard questions coming up. Things that have not been aired on this show. Even Tabaro feared to raise them. But Lydia, last word on the Capital Gang as we wait for May.
The last word on the gang is that we need to improve more on issues. We should not lament so much. I think many things can be done about the traffic if we sensitize people more, and maybe if the traffic can alert. These traffic diversion alerts can help. You imagine you driving, then you bump into a road construction diversion without knowing at maybe at Luzira or at industrial area. Yeah, they should throw alerts, because with the social media and alerts, it's very easy to see an alert and you divert early. Part of the big traffic problems in the city is because there are no alerts on diversions, but also even if we are talking about the VVIP, those who are entitled to travel where they have the right of way. Let me use that one. If there's a right of way, like for you, Oscar, there should be an alert to say in the next 2 hours, divert. It would make life easier for everybody. On school days,
I also don't know why those sirens people move in traffic time. They should leave us alone.
On school days, Oscar, because school days are also heavy, they should be able to, traffic should come into alert. On the opening day, I don't know, for some reason, Seta to Mukono, these are Lugazi. There are so many schools up to Namagunga there. On opening day, you don't go, but there should be even alert how parents can travel, diversion of roads, and the head power. This can be done so that we stop these blind traffic congestions.
Thank you. I can tell you that we're going to have a bit of traffic on Entebbe Road and in our school because we have sports day, and parents have attended, so many of them have not listened to gang.
Facilitate traffic to give.
So
was it other school up on the hill?
Taiba.
No, the other one on the hill.
There's
Standard, is it? Which
Taiba is one I know.
The one. That's Mr. Musoke. That's Mr. Samuel Musoke being himself.
Thank you.
This is the prime time. Yes. You can't give it to
There's a visiting day there today.
Thank you, Star Cafe for powering the gang. Thank you, Susan Sivirwa, for coming to gang. Yes, thank you, the rest of the gangsters, Madam, soon to be speaker. Thank you so much. Yes. Rough Cuts is next. Eid is next week. So I am Oscar Semoyam Soke, and I wish you a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week.